Hey gang, welcome back to Jay's Garage. Today's video is part 9 in the basket case Camaro rebuild. Now obviously there's 8 other videos. I suggest you go back and look at the playlist, but basically I'm dealing with a 68 Camaro that I bought several years ago that was either rolled over or it had a tree fall on it or something. And so I'm working on replacing the whole driver's side of the car, the main structure, the quarter panel, outer wheelhouse, all that stuff is kind of one unit except for the quarter panel. And then on this side, I'm working on replacing the quarter panel as well, the outer wheelhouse, and I have to deal with the rocker panel. Now, let me tell you, I love doing this stuff. I like to have to, I guess I should use a term, I like the challenge, let's put it that way, of figuring out how and where I can cut things and modify things and get them back together. And I try to share as much information as I can going through that process. And I want to say that the rocker panel sort of has me stumped right now. And there's a reason for that. But I'll get into that in just a minute. I still need to do the work to that. But let me show you what the car looks like. Obviously I have the quarter panel on the car. I want to show you how the wheelhouse interacts with the quarter. And then I'll take that back off and show you the wheelhouse itself. So let's take a look. So the quarter is held in with just 2 pair of vice grips. Actually 3. There's one up here, there's one here at the pinch weld for the B-pillar, and then there's one underneath here at the back of the quarter where it meets the wheelhouse. So in a previous video I worked on putting in a wheelhouse and I had to do some modifications, and now I want to show you basically how this is going to look. Turn the camera around here, see if I can get that in there. The gap is minimal at this point. You know, I was kind of concerned with what I was going to have as an end result, and for the most part it's not very big anymore. Hey, look, it's me. So now I'm putting the light in my own face so it's hard to see what I'm doing. I'm pretty happy with how this looks at this point. This side over here, it actually is better than it looks. I can't get the camera over there far enough because of the little screen that's popped out on the side. The bottom section lines up really well, so pretty happy with all of that. It lines up very well up here on the roof where I had problems with the other side. So let me pull the quarter off and give you a look at what I did with the wheelhouse. So here's a look at the wheelhouse. I did cut out roughly 3/16 of an inch to collapse these 2 sides together, and then I welded it in. This is a butt weld all the way around, and I did leave the inner structure here from the old wheelhouse so that I didn't have to take all this apart. And down here I have not welded anything yet. I have everything prepped, but I'm waiting until I take care of the rocker panel just in case I have to wiggle this around a little bit. In the back I prepped the inside of this with the drop-off panel, so it's not welded yet either. Up here, this is all welded, so everything's been welded and blended down, so very happy with how the wheelhouse looks. Now let's talk about this rocker panel. As I've mentioned, this rocker panel is rough. It's rotted out. It's got a big caved in dent in that midsection, but the complexity of it is getting it out. And as I mentioned on the other side of the car, when I did all this on the other side, I had to shorten this length of the rocker panel. So basically down here, the flat section, if I can get my view right, this flat section on the replacement piece is wider than this piece. And I'm assuming I'll have to do the same thing to this rocker panel. Now, this involves a lot of stuff. You have this panel which attaches to the inside here of the rocker panel. Not that big a deal, a few spot welds. Here it's a continuation, and that would be in this section roughly, right up in here. And then you have the inner structure that creates the actual latch point for the door. and it's already been separated down here at the bottom, but there's another weld, spot weld right here. Again, that's pretty minor. Well, as I move forward, I run into problems up at the front. And what I'm running into is the way this is shaped. If you look at the replacement panel, like here is the end of it, right? Here's the squared off flange. That's right here. And that goes up under the A-pillar. Well, if you look at that squared off flange, come back over here, you have this piece. And that's really underneath the A-pillar. I don't want to open this up. I feel like I want to keep everything as solid as I can, so I'm going to modify how I do this. Normally, you know, under ideal conditions, you take this stuff apart to get in there and open up those welds and be able to remove this piece. More than likely, I'm going to cut this somewhere in this location, come down here, and then come forward and leave this corner in place, and then cut this to fit that. Now there's more to this. There's some more things that are kind of bothering me in the process. For me to do all this, I need to take loose all of these spot welds here at the top, and of course all of the ones at the bottom. Break this stuff loose, break that loose, and then I'm stuck with the idea that I'm going to have to narrow this. So there's a lot of things that are interacting, and I'm almost to the point, almost, where I want to leave this together, this section back here, and cut it in a way that I can come up, come forward, and cut it where the step plate would cover up any kind of weld, and leave this spot weld in the car. There's nothing wrong with that. It is solid. There's no rust to speak of in that area. And so I'm really debating on how I want to approach this. The other thing is the bottom section where those spot welds are underneath. Really struggling with the idea of taking all of those loose, knowing that I'm probably going to have to narrow this panel. So anyway, that's where I'm at with this dilemma. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with cutting off that front corner, or should I say cutting it and leaving the front corner. And then I may actually do some cutting here just to see what it would look like. Get that loose, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can cut it, eliminate this section, and then see what it looks like. So these are the kind of things that I think about when I'm trying to resolve these issues. And I think you get the idea of why it's a struggle, why I'm trying to debate myself on this as to what's the best approach. So let me get some stuff cut loose, and we'll take another look at it and see what I come up with. Well, that was interesting. As I cut this, it sprung open. It started up here at the front, and as I cut in different locations, it came to the back, it sprung open. So that's because of the dent that's down below here. It's under, put some bind on it, and it's kind of wanted to pull it down. So it's coming along. I didn't realize until after I was almost done cutting that I had one of these. Now this is an air saw. I've had it in my toolbox for years, and I just forgot I had it. So when I pulled it out, I was able to zip through this a lot faster than with the Ziz wheel. So I may use it on the bottom. I'm not sure yet, but I need to get the bulk of this out of here. Okay, I think this is the way I'm going to go. That went smoother than I expected. I did run into a big rat's nest as I was cutting things loose, and I cannot believe how much dirt is inside this car, and that's blowing it all over the place. So as you can see, I did cut roughly that line that I wanted to cut, and I came forward and I also cut this flange off of these two ears. And as I'm looking at it, I think what I'll do is cut those ears off, take them out of the car, and use the ones on the new rocker panel. Up here I'll have my line that I can weld back into. Down below I cut behind the body line, and I'll probably trim this because I cut it with that saw. It wasn't as straight as I would have done it with the cutoff wheel, and I can adjust that length as needed so that I get this correct. Back here, the thing I had to deal with was this inner structure, and I really didn't want to take that out, and it would have been breaking spot welds loose down below to separate this panel. I'll have to figure out if I want to actually like cut into this piece, like cut through it but not cut into this panel, and that way I would have a seam where I could weld and I would have something backing it up as well. Up here, same thing. I'll use the end of the rocker panel to wrap this and then weld this internally, come up underneath all this. I did bend this out just a little to make room for cuts, and then come up and join this back together. I think this is the best approach. As you can see, there's no rust in there. This was very, very solid. There's a little bit of surface rust right here, but nothing dramatic. I didn't look further back in, but I would venture to say there's probably really next to nothing back there. I can put some phosphate or something in there and treat it, throw some paint on it, same way out here, clean that up, and now it's just a matter of trimming everything down to make them fit together. So there's the back flange, and I don't know why this rusted like that. That's a really strange way to rust, but now you can see how bad that was caved in. So somebody else might have just filled all this with Bondo, and covered it up, but I'll be putting in a new piece. So I'll get things prepped and get the other piece, start fitting it in place and see how it goes. So there it is. Again, this is just a rough cut. You saw I used the 1-inch square tubing to create a stop, and I'm going to set this up against the car and see how it looks. And in case you're wondering, I am using this Yes Welder Cut 55 DS, and this thing's been doing a great job. If you're interested, there will be a referral link in the description down below. You can get 10% off using my link if you want to order one of these. So give it a look, see if you're interested. Okay, so I've cleaned up most of the rust that was down here. I also trimmed off that little flange of metal that I was talking about so that I would have a seam to weld up against, or a back plate, let's say, with this piece. So this is dropped back a little. Now, I want to treat this rust, or at least this area up here in particular, and maybe even some in here. And I've used this product before. Should still be good. This is Rust Seal. And basically, supposed to shake this stuff up, pour it into a container, and then brush it on or roll it on if you wanted to. I've always just used a brush. And I've had this stuff for years. So I'm just going to put a little in this container. Now you do want to, I mean this stuff's been around a while, so it should still work for what I need. But this has a really bad smell to it, just so you know. And what I'll do is I'm going to turn on the fan so that it draws the air away from me. And this stuff you just put on and leave it. And whatever you put in the container, you get rid of. Don't put it back in the bottle. There's various other products like this out there, and this has worked well for me in the past, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, the difficulty is when you do this, realize I'm going to be welding as well later on, and some of this is going to burn out. But the plan will be to use like that Eastwood frame coating these I showed before in one of the Mustang videos, and spray the inside of this with that coating to help protect it as well. So this stuff needs to sit for about 12 hours. So I'm just going to get it on here, put it in a variety of places that I see little bits of rust showing. Just going to use up what I have in the container. Alright, so things are coming along. I have that fitting fairly well. As you know, it's up inside of that cavity. I still have to cut this edge along here, and of course cut a little bit out of here. I've got a little too much cut off right there, but that's okay. It's behind the quarter piece, and I can weld that together, no problem. I'll have to cut down here all the way across. Back here I did remove a little metal right there because it was too tight, and I have this clamped up to the wheelhouse. So once I get all of that cut, and I may not film it all just because it's kind of tedious, I'll have to work on the bottom and of course the overlap, and that'll take some work, but I'll get there. So far I think it's looking pretty good. So this is where I'm at the moment. I did cut this, and that was able to bring this back section up a little more. I readjusted my vice grips to bring it up as well. This will go back in later, and things up here look pretty good. What I plan to do is whenever it comes time to weld this together, because this is sitting lower, but it's technically not lower. It's almost the same height there. And when I do a little more adjusting, it'll come up a little bit more. As you can see here in the back, it's much closer, but I will probably weld maybe a tab onto here and use that as leverage so I can pull this up and bring these two together. Just a simple technique. What I did now is I went underneath the vehicle where this now overlaps, and I drew a line where this edge is on the black panel. And the plan is I'm going to take out the rocker panel, see where that line is and how much material I have. Because what I may do on the bottom is a double cut. And what I mean by that is I will have the overlap piece on top of the original piece and cut them both at the same time, and that should give me a much tighter seam, let's say, than if I tried to match what is already there from what I cut off. So just a technique, a lot of people do that. You can even cut it at an angle if you wanted to, so that you ended up with two opposite bevel edges that would come together. But I'm going to look at it and go from there. Okay, so there, I don't know if you can see it very well. I know it's hard to pick up stuff on the camera sometimes. There's the line. So I have a pretty consistent amount of material there that I can cut through, and that's the plan. I mean, I could cut this line as is and run with it, but I'd rather do the overlap thing and try to get it even tighter. The only conflict with doing it this way is back here, and that's this inner panel. And in hindsight, I probably could have left this section a little bit wider so that when I cut it, I was not close to this. So I'm debating on what I want to do back here, because you can see, hopefully see, there's a line where what I have. I would rather have this as a butt weld right now than to cut into these spot welds. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, I may just try to stop my cut right there and then cut this off of the new panel and butt that together. We'll see. I'll let you know what I come up with. So I've made my cut, and it's pretty good. Doing the double cut made it much better. Now at this point I'm still overlapped back here, but I'll tell you what I did. I took a piece of tape and I laid it onto the original piece, and I put it on the edge of where I had cut it previously. Then I stretched that tape out, and it's there. You can see the edge of it, and I had a piece in the back, as you know, all the way to the back there. And then I laid this piece and lined it up, so now I can cut here, follow the tape, and it should get me really close to that seam that I want to make. So just using tape as a reference point to create my line. I wanted to show you this. This flange right here was probably just a hair high, and I did take my little body hammer and just tap that down a little bit, and now it lines up much better. If you're looking at this area here, you know, this comes together very nicely. And I want to show you what I'm going to do on this upper flange. Now, as I'd mentioned, I talked about welding something onto this, but I think I have another approach. I'm just going to take a small screwdriver, pry it up on that slightly, and then when I'm doing that, I can squeeze the front section together over here and tack weld it. And that way I can start with a corner and then work my way back. There's nothing really holding it in place right now other than the front flange, so it's easy to manipulate, and I can just squeeze that together and weld it. Now back here, again, I can draw this together. The transition here is not the best. This corner is a little bit higher than this corner, but this is all underneath the door jamb opening, let's say. This lines up really well, and same way as I go to the back it lines up well there. So not a concern with that. Underneath, I'll have to squeeze that together and weld it, but that's going to work out really well. Doing that double cut made it so much closer. And even up here, the original rocker was kind of pulled down just a little, but I can push that up to help secure that gap and make it even. Sorry, kind of hard to film this upside down, but you get the idea. And back here, same thing. I cut that right on that seam. As I mentioned, I have to trim this corner just a little to help it get in there, but it's going to work out. So at this point, I will get it in place, put a couple tack welds. I don't want to weld it completely yet, but I want to have it in the position that I think it belongs. And I want to hang the door and make sure that the reveal looks correct. Now, there's a lot of things here that come into play. The door needs to interact with the quarter panel. And, you know, I may have to do the test fit of multiple pieces just to see if the rocker panel is going to fit the way it should. But I'm pretty confident it's going to turn out pretty nice. You know, it's coming along. It's looking good. But let me get some tack welds in, get the door hung. We'll take another look at it. So I held off on the tack welds. I just wanted to get everything in place and see what it looked like. And I'm pretty happy with this. Right now, the door is on line with the front of the rocker. I mean, within not even 1/8 of an inch. The reveal, pretty decent. The only variance I see is kind of here in the middle. It's almost like the rocker sags a little, but I'm not too worried about that. What I am happy about is this. Now the door pretty much lines up with the angle of the rocker panel. And of course back here we already know the gap is decent. Here's another good thing. Where the quarter and the rocker come together, nice even line. And of course the line for the door to the quarter. So all the markers that I need to see, like even here, you can't beat that. And that was just hanging the door random. I didn't even try, other than lining up this top edge, I didn't even try to really position it. So at this point, I'm happy with that. Time to weld. So I started welding. I just did some tack welds. And that flange came together very nice. I mean, it's almost a perfect transition coming across that. Welded it back there, and then I did a little more up there in that front section and all the way in the front corner. Now, you know, I could sit here and make a hour-long video of me just welding stuff together, but I think you get the idea. Now, I probably may do some time lapse on this to getting all that stuff together, but so far it's turning out great. Very happy with it. I've been welding with this First Test MP200 from Yes Welder. If you like it, there is a link in the description below for referral. So if you use my link, you get 10% off. Things are looking good. I've welded that interior there. I did weld this, and then I took a grinder and went back underneath because I wanted to make sure that was clear so that when the quarter comes in, of course I'll blend all this as well over here, but I wanted to make sure the quarter would slip underneath. Same way here, blending. I welded this in segments, obviously, and just a little advice on this. You know, I've welded in different directions. Typically what I found is if I'm pushing the weld from, let's say, right to left, it welds nicer than if I pull the weld. So just an observation for you. I did blend this down just to see how it would look. There's a few spots I have to touch up, which isn't uncommon. I did weld the back here where the wheelhouse comes together. I still need to weld the wheelhouse, the outer to the inner. That'll come later. And I have not welded anything on the bottom yet. That'll come later as well. In the front, everything is welded around this perimeter in here, and I still need to weld these two, or there's four. There's two there and two down there. But that's where I'm going to stop on this video. You know, there's more to do on the bottom side, and you know, I could just do a time lapse on that and show you later, but I'll probably show more of that whenever I come back to fitting the quarter on and the rain gutter and all that sort of thing, to show you how it looks. I'm pretty happy with this. You know, I've said it before, sheet metal is my thing, and I'm so excited to be welding something onto this car. Now, I know I had some people speculating, is this worth doing? To me it is. This is a fun project. I have all the metal for it. There's really no rust to speak of in the car, nothing dramatic, you know, in that sense. And I'm just excited to be putting pieces back on. And I feel like the progress should move rather quickly. Once I get these things taken care of, stuff like this, it's really just quarter panels, a roof, tail panel, you know. There's not like it's cutting the whole bottom of the car off and welding a new piece in. This is just replacing panels. And I'm excited. I really am. But anyway, that'll be the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. By all means, leave a thumbs up and a comment on this video. Let me know what you think about it. And I do want to shout out to my patrons who continue to support me through all this. I appreciate you very much. But that'll be it. And until next time, take care of yourselves. See you. Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 9.